Auggie Me, the shingling chapter. How some things changed and some things didn't. That was the only time, and the last time, that Summer, Zima, and I sat at a lunch table together, or at any table for that matter. We went back to our different groups. Zima with Savannah, Summer and Auggie, me and Maya. And that honestly was fine with me. Sure, maybe there was part of me that loves happy endings, that wished that things had changed. Zima and Ellie would suddenly switch tables and start sitting at my table along with Summer. Maybe we'd start a new lunch table together with Jack and Auggie and Reed and Amos at the table next to ours. But the truth is, I knew things would never change. I knew it would be the way it had been after the sleepover. Like we had taken a secret trip together, a voyage that no one else knew about. And when we returned from our journey, we each went back to our own homes. Some friendships are like that. Maybe even the best friendships are like that. The connections are always there. They're just invisible to the eye. Which is why Savannah would have no idea that Summer and I got to know her friend Zima as well as we did. And why Maya wouldn't understand the effect her note had on me and Summer. Or why Auggie didn't know the first thing about any of this stuff that was going on. He has his own stuff to worry about, Summer had told me once when she explained why she'd never even told Auggie she'd gotten picked to be in Mrs. Antanaby's dance. He doesn't need to know about all this girl drama. That's not to say there haven't been some changes that have happened. As we entered our last few months of 5th grade, I definitely noticed that Zima made more of an effort to branch out to other girls in our grade. And when she sees me in the hallway now, she's always giving me a warm hello, regardless of who she's with, even Savannah. And also, even though Ellie and Maya never patch things up, Ellie and I have hung out after school a couple of times. Not that it's like it used to be, of course, but it's something I'll take. Small steps, as Mrs. Antanaby would say. It starts with small steps. And the truth is, even if Zima, Savannah, and Ellie did suddenly invite me to sit at their table, I wouldn't go now. It just wouldn't seem right. First of all, I wouldn't want to get an angry note from Maya or have her bare her teeth at me across a room. But mostly, it's because I realized something that day she enrolled her magnificent dot game across the lunch table. Maya's been my friend through thick and thin. My friend. All these years. In her clumsy, loyal, slightly annoying way. She's never judged me. She's always accepted me. And that group of girls at my lunch table, the ones that I have nothing in common with, well, guess what? We have a lunch table in common. And a ridiculously beautiful game of dots that we play over lunch, with the different colored markers Maya's assigned to each and every one of us. Which we have to use or she gets really mad at us. But that's just Maya, and that will never change. How I talked to Mr. Tushman. The last day of school, Mr. Tushman's assistant, Mrs. Garcia, found me in 7th period and asked if I would come talk to Mr. Tushman right after school. Maya overheard her and started giggling. "Ooh, Charlotte's in trouble," she sang. We both knew that wasn't the case, though, and that it probably had to do with the awards they were giving out tomorrow. Everyone assumed I would win the Beecher Medal because I had organized the coat drive, and the medal usually went to the student who did the most community service. I knocked on Mr. Tushman's door right after the last period bell. "Come in, Charlotte," he said enthusiastically, signaling for me to sit at the chair in front of his desk. I always loved Mr. Tushman's office. He had all these fun puzzles on the edge of his desk, and artwork from kids over the years framed and hanging on the walls. I noticed immediately that he had Augie's self-portrait as a duck displayed behind his desk. And then suddenly I knew what this meeting was about. "Are you excited for tomorrow's graduation ceremony?" he asked, crossing his hands in front of him on the desk. I nodded. "I can't believe 5th grade is almost over," I answered, unable to restrain my happiness. "It's hard to believe, isn't it?" he said. "Do you have plans for summer?" "I'm going to dance camp." Oh, how fun, he answered. You three were so amazing at the benefit in March, like professional dancers. Mrs. Antanaby was so impressed with how hard you worked and how well you worked together. Yeah, it was so much fun, I said excitedly. That's great, he said, smiling. I'm glad you've had a good year, Charlotte. You deserve it. You've been a joyful presence in these hallways, and I appreciate how you've always been nice to everyone. Don't think things like that go unnoticed. Thank you, Mr. Tushman. The reason why I wanted to have a little word with you before tomorrow, he said, and I'm hoping you can keep it between us, is that I know you know that among the many honors I give out tomorrow, one of them is the Beecher Medal. You're giving it to Auggie, I blurted out, right? He looked surprised. Why do you say that? He asked. Everyone's assuming I'm getting it. He looked at me carefully and then smiled. You are a very smart girl, Charlotte, he said gently. I'm fine with that, Mr. Tushman, I said. But I wanted to explain, he insisted, because the truth of the matter is, had this been like any other ordinary year, you would have probably been getting that medal, Charlotte. You deserve it. Not only because of all the hard work you did on the coat drive, but because, like I just said before, you've been a really nice person to everyone. I still remember how, right from the start, when I asked you to be Augie's welcome buddy, you embraced that wholeheartedly and without any question. Have I mentioned how much I love the fact that he uses big words and assumes that we understand them? But, as you know, he said, this year has been anything except ordinary. And when I was thinking about this award, thinking about what it represents, I realized it can be about more than community service, not to devalue that at all. I know totally what you mean, I agreed. When I look at Auggie and all the challenges he has to face on a daily basis, he said, patting his heart, I'm in awe of how he manages to simply show up every day with a smile on his face. And I want him to have a validation that this year was a triumph for him, that he's really made an impact. I mean, the way the kids rallied around him after the horrible incident at the nature reserve, it was because of him. He inspired that kindness in them. I completely get what you mean, I said. And I want this award to be about kindness, he continued. The kindness that we put out in the world. Totally, I agreed. He seemed genuinely delighted by my attitude, and a little relieved, I think. I'm so glad you understand, Charlotte, he said. I wanted to tell you beforehand so you wouldn't be disappointed during the ceremony tomorrow, since, as you say, everyone's assuming you're getting it. But you won't tell anyone, right? I wouldn't want to ruin the surprise for Auggie or his family. Can I tell my parents? Of course, though I'm planning on giving them a call myself tonight to tell them just how proud I am of you at this very moment. He got up, reached across the table to shake my hand, so I shook his hand. Thank you, Charlotte, he said. Thank you, Mr. Tushman. See you tomorrow? Bye. I started walking toward the door, but then this one thought popped into my head, like a fully formed idea. I had no clue where it came from. But the award can go to two people, right? I asked. He looked up for a second. I thought I saw the tiniest bit of disappointment in his eyes. It has on a few occasions gone to a couple of students who've done a community service project together, he answered, scratching his forehead. But in the case of Auggie and you, I think the reasons he would be getting it are so different from the reasons you would be. No, I'm not talking about Auggie and me, I interrupted. I think Summer should get that award. Summer? She's been such an amazing friend to Auggie all year long, I explained. And not because you asked her to be his welcome buddy, like with me and Jack. She just did it. It's like what you just said about kindness. Mr. Tushman nodded, like he was really listening to what I was saying. I mean, I've been nice to Auggie, I said, but Summer was kind. That's like the nice to the 10th power or something. Do you know what I mean? I know exactly what you mean, he answered, smiling. I nodded. Good. I really appreciate your telling me about all this, Charlotte, he said. You'd given me so much to think about. Awesome. He was looking at me and nodding slowly, like he was debating something in his head. Let me ask you something, though, he said, pausing as if he were trying to find the right words to say. Do you think Summer would want a medal just for being friends with Auggie? The moment he said it, I knew exactly what he meant. Oh, I said. Wait a minute. You're right. She wouldn't. For some reason, the image of Maya baring her teeth at the Savannah table across the room popped into my head. Friends definitely aren't about the medals. But let me think about it tonight, he said, getting up. No, you're right, I answered. It's good the way you had it. You sure? I nodded. Thanks again, Mr. Tushman. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, Charlotte. We shook hands again, but this time he took my hand in both of his own. Just so you know, he said, being nice is the first step toward being kind. It's a pretty awesome start. I'm supremely proud of you, Charlotte. Maybe he knew it and maybe he didn't. But for someone like me, words like that are worth all the medals in the world.